Oh, she did.
Oh my god. So while Dad does his thing, we're gonna have a little fun with some funny faces. And I'm going to see how many bottle flips I can get. Because this is what the podcast is about now. Ready, go. 1.
Look at the bad one.
2. 3. 4.
Okay, I got a shit.
Okay. 4.
Oh my
Magic number is 4. Oh, what did you comment?
I didn't comment the shit, I think.
You did comment.
I did?
Yeah, when you shared it, you must have commented your post too.
Oh, wait a minute, I might have just, I might have just commented that
Oh,
shit.
clock's still going.
So, I got a shit now.
Oh.
Okay. Gotta play it down. Welcome to another episode of Do You Really Know God? I'm gonna start with John 4:13. Jesus answered, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water, welling up to eternal life."
I like that one because, I mean, a little context on that we're obviously going to get into because in that, or that is part of the story of the Samaritan woman.
Yeah.
That the whole podcast is going to be about this week. But I like that specifically because, especially if you've seen The Chosen, you actually get to see it played out.
And it's really
I'm
good.
telling you, you can't do it.
You
can't do it.
The Chosen.
You can't do it.
I'm sorry. I look up and I just see a cat face on Devin. I just lost it. Oh my god.
Oh,
Sorry for the effects, but I don't know.
anyway, but so it's, if I remember correctly, the story of the Samaritan woman is in the Bible multiple times, but more famously in John.
In John 4:1-42 is pretty much all about the Samaritan woman.
Yeah, but what I like about that specifically is that is Jesus talking to the Samaritan woman. And as we'll get into, she had a very rough life, and she was divorced many times, which back in those days wasn't common and was not looked at as a good thing. And so, like, she wasn't invited to go get water from the well with all the other wives.
She had to go in the noon at the high sun. Here's the thing is, this is Jacob's well.
Yeah.
Jacob's well was made because at the time, there was no close synagogues or churches, and the well was made because there's also no water in the area.
Well, so how, because I remember this specifically from The Chosen, which this taught me something when I watched it. Jacob and his sons were traveling for God.
Yep.
And they found this spot that they just decided to want to call it a day. They're going to build a well because they needed some water and everything. And a Samaritan came up to them and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing here?" And they're like, "Oh, we're just walking around. We're preaching God's word and blah, blah, blah. And we just stopped, figured this would be a good place to, have a stopping point, rest, and get some water." He's like, "Well, good luck getting some water there, because this land has been dry for decades and centuries." And so Jacob was like, well, we're going to try anyway. Our God is better than all gods. And so, just at that moment, Jacob's son hit water. And like the dude said, there hasn't been water there for centuries. And so it was a literal miracle, literal act of God.
Yeah.
And so they considered that well holy.
Yep.
And it was, a good 5 miles outside of the city?
Yeah, and there's no synagogues
Yeah.
or anything within miles of
Right.
this well.
And back in those days, you could only pray in synagogues and worship in synagogues.
Well, it was considered that now that you could worship at the well.
Yeah, or the well.
The well, believe it or not, like everybody went to the well in the morning back in the day to pray and to get water. The Samaritan woman could not because she was basically shunned from society. And so she had to go in the hottest time of the day, which was noon, when nobody else would
When
travel.
the sun was at its highest and hottest point.
So that's when she had to go because people basically disowned her, shunned her from society.
Yeah. Now,
the reason why we're using her for this podcast is because she's such a pivotal point of Jesus's
coming
out tour. He had a lot of time, and there's a lot of mention in the Bible before he actually met this Samaritan woman. But at the time before he met her, it was all on a down low. It was all on a hush-hush. Anything he did prior had to be all kept in secret.
It was for private parties. And nobody knew. Like, when Jesus turned the water to wine was before his coming out party. It was at a wedding, and nobody knew anything.
Yeah, and he had to keep it on a down low. And that's when he's building his disciples. And even his disciples seen all the miracles he's doing, but had to keep it on a down low. Jesus used the Samaritan woman as a coming out point to basically say, hey, I am the Messiah. I am Jesus. And that's why I use that verse today, because in the next verse on that, which is John 4:15, the woman said to him, Sir, give me this water so I won't get thirsty and have to keep coming to draw this water. He told her, Go call your husband and come back. I have no husband, she replied. Jesus said to her, You are right when you say you have no husband. The fact is, you have had 5 husbands, and the man you now have is not your husband. What you have just said is quite true. Sir, the woman said, I can see that you are a prophet. Our ancestors worshipped on this mountain, but you, Jews, come claim the place where we must worship is in Jerusalem. Woman, Jesus replied, believe me, a time is coming when you will worship the Father neither on a mountain nor in Jerusalem. You Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, for salvation is from the Jews. Yet a time is coming and has now come when true worshippers will worship the Father in the Spirit and in the truth, for they are the kind of worshippers the Father seeks. God is Spirit, and his worshippers must worship in the Spirit and in the truth. The woman said, I know that Messiah, called Christ, is coming. When he comes, he will explain everything to us. Then Jesus declared, I, the one speaking to you, I am he.
Yeah, and right before what you read for the original verse, Jesus and the disciples got to the well. And he was like, all right, we can stop here. You guys go ahead, get some food and whatnot. Because they were saying, we're hungry.
They were going to town to buy food.
Yeah, so they went into town to go get some food. and they said, we'll bring you something back. And so Jesus was just sitting there at the well because he said, I have an important mission.
He had an appointment.
Yeah.
He was waiting for her specifically because he knew she was there.
Yeah.
Now, the importance is that's when this is the first time in the Bible, in his whole existence, that he admitted to somebody, hey, I am the Messiah that people are talking about.
Yeah.
I am he. I'm not a prophet. I am the Messiah.
The first time he verbally said that.
And he basically said that because she thought he was some type of prophet because he knew a little bit about her. But then he goes on later explaining how much he knows about her. Like, I mean, he admits that he knows that she had 5 husbands in the past. And now she's with a guy that she's not married to.
Well, my favorite one is when he mentions, I believe it was her 3rd husband.
Yes.
He had that she was fully in love with him, but her insecurities was the thing that got between them.
Yeah.
She felt insecure and felt unworthy of him. And so she actually, what was it? Something about oranges.
Yeah, he smelled like oranges.
Yeah, he smelled like...
whenever she goes to the market, she smells oranges, which smells like his cologne.
Yeah, his cologne or whatever smelled like oranges. And so anytime she walks through the market and smells fresh oranges, she feels guilty and bad inside.
Yeah, she of him.
Right. And
he also mentioned how he understood about the first husband, how he is abusive to her. And he understands why she left him because of his abuse.
Yeah, and but so the disciples go into town and she comes and Jesus is just sitting there. And at first she doesn't talk to him, nothing like that.
And he actually asked her to fetch him some water.
Yeah, she
says right out, why is a Jew asking me, a Samaritan, for water?
Because the Jewish and the Samaritans had issues in the past.
And didn't get along.
Right. And the Jews felt like they were higher, I guess.
They were above the Samaritans.
Yeah. And so he said, ma'am, would you mind pouring me a cup of water? And she said, why would I give you water? And he said, well, because you're fetching some water and I would like some water. Can you give me some water? And she was talking about the Jews and everything. And I can't remember. She said something about the water being good or something like that.
Well, that's when she mentioned about the water. Well, she said, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water?
Well, no,
Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as did also his sons and their livestock?
Well, I'm talking before that. Go up a little bit. Yeah, so the Samaritan woman said to him, you are a Jew and I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink? And for a
Jews
footnote,
do not associate with
yeah, Jews do not associate with Samaritans. And he goes on to say, Jesus answered her, if you knew the gift of God and who it is that asked you for a drink, you would have asked him and he would have asked him, and he would have given you living water. And so she goes on to say, and this is paraphrased, I'm not reading this part, but she basically says, okay then, if I'm supposed to ask you for living water, why are you asking me for water? Because if I'm asking you for water, that means you have it. So why are you asking me for water? And so he goes on, and she goes on to say, plus you have nothing to fetch this water with. So how do you plan on providing me with living water? And he said what your verse was, was the water I'm asking for you, your people can drink all day and still go thirsty.
Yes.
The water that I give to you will never run out, and you will never go thirsty. And obviously, in that, what he's saying is he's not talking about physical water. Because you can drink physical water all day, and then the second you stop, you can still be thirsty. He's talking about living water, which is water for the soul. It's grace, it's faith, it's God. And so he was using the physical water she was fetching as a kind of a metaphor and as a what's the word I'm looking for? As a scapegoat to talk to her about God.
Yeah. And here's the thing.
A segue. That was the word. Segue.
The Samaritan woman, in herself, had a lot of sin in her baggage, to the point where her people rejected her. The Jewish people rejected her. So she had no ties with nobody, and everybody rejected her because of her sins in her 5 marriages. And now she's living with a guy outside of marriage.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of pot. But here's the one thing is, Jesus talked to her and came out to her for one reason. If you notice in the phrase, it too said, go back and tell your husband who I am.
Yeah.
Your husband's. She went back to town and ran back to town.
Oh, yeah.
And when she ran back to town, she told everybody, hey.
She dropped her water and everything.
She dropped her water, everything. And she told everybody, hey, the Messiah, he's here. He's at Jacob's well. He is here. He knows everything about me, and he says it's okay. So now the town people are like, who is this quack saying that you're okay with everything you did? We want to go see. So all the townspeople actually gathered up together and went to Jacob's well to see Jesus.
Yeah, but I mean, I think, so you say it's Jesus' coming out tour, right?
Yeah, that's how I
anyone who watches the podcast looks at it. But I really think that's a great analogy, and I've always thought that for this reason, and I've waited to this point to bring it up because I feel like this is the turning, and this is what really brings my mindset of it all together. Because you call it his coming out tour because he just goes and he, that's where he really comes out.
Yeah.
But the way I've always thought of it, from what you were saying, or what I believe you meant, was think of it as a band, right? A band, when Jesus was born, it was like the band forming. It was like a bunch, like the people coming over and say, hey, let's start a band. You can play guitar, you could be the lead singer, blah, blah. That's like what Jesus was born.
Yeah.
And in the infant stage, they make their own songs. And they'll do a little show here, a little show there, and really get nothing for it.
Yeah.
They'll just do this and that. And that's what I think of, like him turning the water into wine. When he was, if you've seen The Chosen, I don't know exact Bible verses, nothing like that, but when he was teaching the children.
Yeah.
And
teaching children about the Bible.
Yeah, he was teaching the children about the Bible, turn the water to wine, the whole fish thing with Simon, gathering the disciples.
Kitty cat.
Yeah, right? And, but then, it's like Jesus, it's like the band finally caught that break to open for another band or something like that, and they go on tour. And so, or even their first official tour for themselves.
Yeah.
And they go, okay, this is our debut tour, our coming out tour, the first tour we've ever done. And this is like their post on Instagram announcing.
And you got to think about it at this time too, when Jesus actually comes out, before him there's John the Baptist.
Yeah.
John the Baptist was the that everybody followed. He baptized so many people. He was like the main focus at the time. Jesus was just in the background, just weaving in and out in the background, and keeping quiet.
Yeah.
Until this time, he does this coming out.
It's big.
He becomes big, and that's when John the Baptist actually gets arrested and pulled away and taken away in his.
But it's kind of like Jesus is like a small band, and he does a few, like, maybe he has a song that hits number 8 on the charts or something like that, and it's one of those catchy songs, like, hey, I know that, I've heard of that. Who sings that? Who does? And when he comes out with his, when he meets with the Somalian woman and everything, I look at it as a band advertising a tour. Because, they advertise months before they actually do anything.
Yeah.
And so this is like the band posting on Facebook, posting on Instagram, whatever, saying, hey, we have this tour, and these are the dates to be there.
Yeah.
And then after that, they start playing the shows, and they start gathering more fans, and they start doing this and that. And so that's why I say it's almost perfect. As you say, this is the start of where
they're coming out.
It's because he literally, this is his announcement. He's like, hey, I'm doing this now.
And this is exactly where he actually finally lets people know who he is, that he is the Messiah.
Yes.
He ain't just a rabbi, he ain't just a teacher, he is the actual up until this point, he's known as he's a rabbi, a prophet.
Yeah.
So there was some Samaritan, a pivotal point of the Bible history with Jesus. It is the point that Jesus uses her because, one, he knew that if she went into town saying that this guy is a Messiah and knows everything about her life and is okay about it, he knew the townspeople would be like, huh?
Yeah.
What are you talking about, crazy old lady?
Yeah.
Well, let me go see what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And they're going to come out to him so then he can actually talk to him. And he uses this the Samaritans as the first aspect of this whole thing to actually say, hey, look, I am the Messiah, this is what I'm doing, and you don't no longer have to live in fear. You don't have to go to pray. All you have to do is room and pray in your heart, and God is there. You don't have to go to the well no more to pray.
Yeah.
God is there wherever you pray. You don't have to be in a church, or you don't have to be in the synagogue, or you don't have to be at the well. You can pray in your own home, and God will be there.
Well, and that's why I think, this episode, the importance of the Samaritan woman, that's the name of the podcast, and that is why she is so important, is because she is literally the turning stone to where from this moment on, from this occurrence or this interaction, after that, it no longer matters how many sins you have from the past.
No.
It no longer matters, where you pray.
And it also starts the 3-year tour
Yeah.
that Jesus does to actually his crucifixion.
Yeah.
To where he actually is crucified and is resurrected and takes our sin in hand.
And this is where from this point on, is where we meet the Jesus that everybody knows.
Yes.
Because, as Christians, as people who read the Bible, we know Jesus wasn't always this rock star who, did miracles and all this. We know that there was a time before that where he was just a carpenter. He was just a handyman.
Yes.
And
he's just a child.
And most people who aren't super into the Christian faith don't realize that. People who don't read the Bible and don't get to know Jesus, they don't know that. And so this is the point that where he becomes the Jesus that we all know and love.
And this is the point also. Before this, there was a few people that they seen his miracles. They seen what he can do, and they knew he's the Messiah just because of what he's done. He kept it all hidden, so there's very few people who've seen it.
Yeah.
From this point on, he does it openly. He lets everybody see what he can do, who he really is.
Right. Well, I think a good example of that almost everyone can understand and relate to is I feel like it's just like this is so I had a football coach who had a big beard when I was in high school, and that's all I ever known him as was Coach DJ. And he had this big beard, and he was a bigger guy because he used to be a lineman.
Yeah. And
he was the head coach, and I used to know him as cool when we're in the locker room, but mean when we're on the football field and all that. And then all of a sudden one day Similar. Not he had it a little touched up more than that one, but he
I wish they popped up.
I know, I can't. I was like, oh my
come
god.
on, wait. Okay, go ahead.
But one day I went in weightlifting class and he his beard was gone. He shaved his whole beard for whatever reason. And I had never seen him without a beard. He had the same beard every time I saw him, and this time he had no beard. And obviously, if anyone knows anything about, people with beards and stuff like that, when they shave, they look different.
Totally different.
Totally different. And just like Mr. Anderson, I'm very curious to see what Mr. Anderson looks like without a beard. You know what I mean?
I'll let him know.
But that's the thing, it was funny because the way his face was shaped and everything, we kept making jokes and we got in trouble for this. But he kind of looked like overgrown Stewie without a beard. Because he didn't have much hair on his head either. That was the worst part. And, but so, it's, because he always had that beard, me seeing him as no beard, it was almost like he was a little less intimidating. And because, it's like, oh, he kind of looks like a baby now. And all this and that. And that's exactly what I'm saying is my coach with the beard was almost like the Jesus everybody knows. Yeah. Anyone who's heard anything about Jesus, that's what they know. Is Jesus, he's this, and this, he does this and this. But as Christians, the more you stick around in the religion, in the faith, and the more you read your Bible, you realize that there is still, he was a baby. He was a child who didn't even understand his powers. He was, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what, that's why I think the Somalian woman is so important, is everything we know about Jesus and everything we know about the Christian faith from this point on, or to this day, is originated right there.
At the Jacob's well with the Samaritan woman.
And
100%.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, another example is like my nieces and nephews, dad's grandbabies, Colby, Kiva, and Trent. They will never know what life without technology is.
Yes. And
like I remember, we had a computer when I was growing up, but I was almost never allowed to go on it. Because I think it was mainly for you and Mom's business stuff. I don't think it was
like knowing Mom, I didn't know you.
Yeah, it was not a personal thing. So I got to play games here and there, but growing up until I was about 10, 13, somewhere around there, I never had a phone, never had like PlayStations, nothing like we did have a PlayStation for a little bit, but I never really had that much technology, and I wasn't allowed to watch a whole lot of TV. And so I know what it's like to not have it all the time. But you see Kobe, Kiva, Trent, they go an hour without their games, and all hell breaks loose.
Exactly.
But they're gonna live in a world where they don't have to think about it. Eventually, and that's what they're gonna see.
I grew up before Google.
Right. And that's what I think of new or fresh Christian is like. Is you hear all this stuff about it.
I thought Google was like 50 years old.
You said 50? Google was invented.
Didn't come out to 98.
Oh, that's even later than I was gonna say. I thought it was like 2004 or something.
1998. The internet came out in 1995.
But anyway, that's what I'm saying is Christians are like what Colby and my niece and nephews are going to grow into, is they're not going to understand what life without technology is. They're going to look at life before technology and be like, huh, so that's what it was like. And us as Christians, we don't know any different aside from what, we've learned as Christians.
Yeah. So
we're looking at like the Samaritan woman and be like, really? You gotta go to a synagogue to pray? But now we don't have to do that. And this exact moment in time is the cause, the root, the start of it all.
Of the final tour. And actually, they're changing the book.
Yeah.
Changing from the Old Testament to the New Testament.
Because that's where...
Started on this day.
Yeah.
It is just such a pivotal point, and
I'm surprised we didn't do this topic earlier.
Yeah. But it's just one of those topics, and it's the pivotal point. Here's the thing is, people don't realize Jesus really just used more of the sinners than the perfect people.
Yeah.
He did not go for the non-sinners. If you notice, Jesus targeted all the sinners to give his message.
Yeah.
He went to the Somalian woman for that. All his disciples were major sinners. He showed the love towards the sinners.
A major sin?
Yes, back then it was.
It was a major sin?
No, not in God's world, but in earth life. Because he is hated by the Jews, because he took money from the Jews, which he was Jewish, and he gave it to the Romans, and he is hated by the Romans because he's a Jew, but he was also not a practicing Jew. He actually was more of an atheist. He did not believe in religion, and he did not believe in the whole God concept. He was more of an atheist before Jesus. We're talking about Matthew. So that was kind of his sin, is he was an atheist. But Jesus used these people, loved these people, and showing that us as Christians, these are the people that we need to have in our lives. These are the people we need to show the light of Jesus. These are the people we need to help through to the next stage. And I think by talking about the Somalian woman, Samaritan woman, her being such a crucial pivot point, and she also shows up later on in the Bible in a couple of little areas, small little parts, where Jesus ran into her in other times. But she was a big-time sinner, but Jesus used her as his coming out tour, because it threw him into that next 3 years, which is the most crucial years of human beings' lives on this earth, for him to save our souls.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, what is your comment section?
My comment section, like always, gonna be simple, easy, but somehow deep. But I want to know who you are today. The person watching this right now. I want to know if you were in the shoes of the Somalian woman.
Samaritan.
Samaritan woman. If you were in
I
the
don't
shoes...
know why I always say Somalian.
I don't know, but you got me on it too. If you
I
were
had
in
no
the...
clue what you were talking about, honestly. I was like, I've never heard of a Somalian woman. Like, this story I've been around the Bible.
I think I'm so used to, when I was a kid, with WWE or WWF back then, we had the Somalian twins who was in that tag team that was big time. But anyways.
Oh. But if you were in the shoes of the Somalian woman, let's say you're just doing your day-to-day normal things, and you know you're a big sinner, and some dude just walks up, or is just at, whatever you're doing. Let's say some dude is your cashier at McDonald's or something like that, and he just says, "Oh yeah, by the way, I'm God. Everything's good. Don't worry about it. You're saved. Don't worry about your past sins. They're done. Don't worry about coming here to worship. You can do that right in your bed. Don't worry about anything. I got you. I am God. I am the Messiah." What would you do? Would you believe him? Would you laugh in their face? Would you feel relief? Would you feel fear, regret? What? I want to know what would be going through your head.
That's a good one. That's a good one, yeah. My strong opinion is most society will promote a mental institution
I agree.
of this day and age. But
I
that's
agree.
a good one. I like that. Alright. My comment section is kind of a two-part. I know I always do a two-part, but it's not, both parts are not comments. One, I want to know, in your opinion, do you feel Jesus did it the best way in your mind by going the sinners to help his message? Do you feel he would have got a better result if he was righteous to give his get his word out there? How would you feel? How do you feel about the way things went about? I mean, Jesus, you don't question what he does, but I know your opinion. If you think if he did it, if he would have had, if he went the other direction instead of this direction. Part 2 of this. By the way, we got Michaela here cackling like a hyena. But
Like a witch brewing a pot of stew. What? I don't even worry about it. Continue. Careful. Do not go where.
okay.
Continue.
Please, Lord, help me of my sins.
I don't want to know.
Two of mine is actually it's kind of a question, I guess, but it's kind of not, because if you don't feel worthy of Jesus or worthy of God, how do you think these disciples and Samaritan woman, when they know they're being, here is the Messiah asking them to join him, them to spread his word. Whenever you don't feel like you of God or worthy of us, think about history. Think about in the past, David, he was a sinner. He cheated on his and then murdered his mistress. You got Abraham, who cheated on his wife, had a kid out of wedlock. You got all the disciples who did wrong, and God always forgave them and still used them as prophets. And then the Messiah actually used them to give their message, his message, and to actually start his taking off career. They were just as unworthy as we feel we are today. Let this be a lesson to you that no matter what you do for sin, you are worthy in God's eyes.
Yeah.
That's my part 2. With that, I hope you have a great night.
And don't forget to have faith over fear.